Okay, in this video what we're going to do is go over how to start out your shed. And you should have these plans in front of you right here. And just to refresh your memories, we are building this shed that you guys made the scale models of. So a couple things that we know about it is that we know we have 8'2" walls, and roughly it's about 10 by 10 wide in the length of the walls. So we're going to come up here to New, and whenever we start a new drawing, it's going to be a project, and make sure it's architectural template okay. And when we go to start, remember we're drawing inside these little view boxes we have here. So anything we draw is always going to go inside of this area so that we can look at our different elevation views and get the correct layout for them. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with wall. And before we could start with our wall, right here you have to notice that we have this little toolbar opens up. Right now we have a height of 20 feet and they're unconnected. So that's real high. And what we just said is that our walls are 8'2". So rather than set the height here, what we're going to do is come down here to our elevations, click on it, and you can see that level 1 is set to 0 feet and level 2 is set to 10 feet. Well, first, let's name this, all caps, first floor. Yes, and you'll see it names it first floor over here. And let's name this roof. Yes, and it names it roof over there. Now, let's change our height to 8'2". And now we go back to the first floor and floor plan. We go to start drawing that wall. Now we can set the height to first floor up to roof, and it will automatically set it to go up to 8'2", which is what we have it set to. Now the other thing we have to look at is we have a generic 8-inch wall, and that's incorrect. If you remember, we built our wall to 2x4s, and then if we come down here, all right, our shed is going to have a layer of plywood, and then there would be house wrap on it, which is a nominal thickness, and then we would have our siding. So we have to set our wall to have those different types of layers in them. So we're going to go to Edit Type. We're going to hit Duplicate, and we're going to call this Exterior Shed Wall, all caps. And we're going to come in here and edit our structure to give it that makeup that we just discussed. So let's go Edit. And right here you can see this is what the wall is currently made out of. Currently it has a structure set up with a thickness of 8 inches. There's no material set. It's just that generic material. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to keep the structure for the 2x4s. We're going to change the material, and we click on this little box, and this opens up our material browser. And I know we have pine, or no, yep, softwood lumber. There we go. We're going to use softwood lumber for our studs. So we're going to hit OK. Okay, our thickness, remember 2x4s are actually 3.5 inches thick. Okay, now we're going to insert that plywood layer. And this is not going to be a structure, this is a substrate. And if I hit this little help tab, and I go to the second tab right here, it kind of explains what all these different things are used for. So we have our structure, the layer that supports the remainder of the wall, the floor of the roof. Our substrate is material such as plywood or gypsum board, which acts as a foundation for other material. And then we have our thermal air layers, which we're not going to worry about. Our membrane layer, which we're not going to worry about. We're not going to put in our vapor layer. And then we have our finish one, which would be our exterior finish, which would be our siding in this case. So we are going to set this to substrate. Okay. And our material is plywood. So let's see if we have plywood. And we do. Okay. And we're just going to do the bare minimum for code, our 1/2 inch plywood. Now, if we look here, here is our exterior side and our interior side of our wall. This goes on the exterior side, so it's on the right side. If it wasn't, I can move it. I can move it down, I can move it up in the listing, but we want it outside of our core boundary, okay? This core boundary is going to be the framing of our house, and we don't want the plywood to get in the way of that. So we need it outside of this core boundary layer, above it, and the next thing we're going to do is insert one more thing because we have our siding. All right, and this we already set as a finish. And the material, do we have siding? Ruh-roh, no we don't. So we need to come down here to create new material. Let's call this on the identity tab. Let's click and call this siding. All right, we go to the appearance tab, and we don't have the material loaded in here, so we have to go and find that in our asset browser over here. And let's just search siding here. And there we have one, horizontal base siding. That's beautiful. Let's put that in. All right, X out of this. Now, before you get click crazy here, we have to do one last thing that's very important. Since we're going to be seeing the siding and we're going to make renderings of our shed, we need to do use render appearance. What this does is it gives it that realistic look to the shed when we do renderings and realistic views. So anytime you have outside layer that you see, such as siding, brick, or maybe the paint on the inside of the house, or tile on a floor, whatever, we want to make sure we use render appearance. Apply. Okay. All right. And this we're just going to say is a thickness of 0.5. So there is our wall. We have our siding, our plywood, our softwood lumber. We're not going to put the house wrap on it. Okay. Okay. So now we're ready to draw our walls. And when we draw them, we have to remember that we have to set where we're drawing from. And if you look at my dimensions of my plan, notice how they're coming from like right inside here. All right, because our dimensions are actually coming from our studs. And I should have adjusted my view so you could see this. You probably see it on your sheet, but it's actually coming from the studs on the exterior face of the studs. So when we draw our house and we do our wall, all right, here's our exterior shed wall. It's going up to our roof. We're going to do it to our core face exterior. Now the thing that's important to remember is that you draw clockwise for this because it's going to dictate where the dimensions come off of. Let me show what I mean. So if we zoom in here, so see that little blue dash location line? So notice when I go clockwise, it's on the exterior face. When I go counterclockwise, it's on the inside of the house, which would mess up our dimensions. So we are not going to have it do that way. So we are going to make sure that we draw it clockwise. So I'm just going to start. I'm going to go up. I just type in 10 feet, enter. We could actually just type in 10 because our units are in feet. 10, and then we close it off. And let's take a look-see at our shed we just made. And like I said, since we used the render appearance, I could click right here and hit realistic. And that's what you should have on your screen right now is our shed realistic. If I wanted to get back to my floor plan, I just click on floor plan. Double click my mouse wheel,